Hi, everyone, and welcome to this month's free webinar for photographers and artists. Today, we're going to be talking about e-commerce. We're going to talk about selling your art and photography online. And this is a challenge, I know, for a lot of folks. There's a lot of options out there. And in this webinar, we're going to have a really kind of overview of what your options are, and I'm going to leave you with a lot of questions for you to answer about your business and how you want to design your online presence. For those of you who do not know me, this is Kimberly Beer talking to you. I'm with Kim Beer Seminars and Midnight Productions Incorporated. I'm also an authorized local expert and solution provider with Constant Contact, which is a fantastic email marketing suite designed to really help you build your business. Constant Contact sponsors me to speak all over the country, and I can't say enough good things about their product, not just because I represent it, but because I use it, and I use it not only for my own business, but for my customers as well. So I recommend that if you are not doing email marketing, catch up with me so that you can learn about it. So there's a hard, cold reality when it comes to having a business in 2017, and that reality is that you must have an online sales presence of some kind. Now, for some of you who do custom art and commissions, or your photographers who do custom photo shoots, realistically, you don't have to have an e-commerce presence unless you want to be able to sell prints of some kind. And I'm going to talk specifically for photographers, and I'm really gauging this towards all artists, towards visual artists is what we're gonna gauge this for. But photographers have a few other options, and we are going to discuss that. But realistically, if you only want to do commissions, or you only want to do photo shoots, in other words, where you're not really selling prints or products of any kind, the type of online presence that you have to have can be different. It can just be a website that talks about the services that you have to offer, because then you're talking about a service-oriented business, which is a little bit different than a product-oriented business. When it comes to selling prints or G-clays or canvases or products that have images on them, and we're going to talk about that as well, like coffee cups and t-shirts and phone cases and all of those things that are out there, then an e-commerce website is a necessity. It is something that you're going to have in order to make a difference, to actually create sales. So e-commerce, when we're talking about e-commerce today, we are talking about selling online. This is people providing a credit card number, purchasing. Sometimes you will not even have met the folks that purchase things from you. Hopefully, if you're selling products and things like that online, images and canvases and G-clays and fine art, that there's going to be a great deal in people that you don't even know anything other than their name and where to ship their products to. So you have a lot of options here. So choices. You can do a dedicated custom website. So you can hire a company to build you a website and integrate an e-commerce solution into that website, and there's a bunch of options that the website company will talk to you about. So that's option number one. It is by far and away the most expensive of all of the options on this list. And if you can afford it and have that company maintain it for you, I say go with number one. Hang up the webinar and just call the website company, and you should be good to go. They'll guide you through everything that you need to know. For most of you, however, you're not going to be in a position to afford that dedicated custom website. And so you have to look at some other options that either are DIY or have a DIY work in partnership connection with another business, the graphic designer website business. Most of my clientele, well, I have a set of clients that I work with that I do the dedicated custom website option with. And then I have another set that I really partner with, and I enjoy both groups, mind you, but My group that I partner with, I really appreciate their dedication because they'll get in and do their own editing. They'll get in and add their own products. They'll get in and do a lot of things to their own web presence. And I think that them being connected sometimes helps them make a few more sales. I don't know as though it's a lot, but anyway, so that's a perfectly valid option. So in these options that we have for you to create, there's different levels of requirement that you're going to have to put into them. There's all-in-one websites, and I'm going to break each one of these down and talk about them specifically. These are things like Wix and Weebly and Squarespace. They're really kind of all-in solutions, and there's some definite pros and some definite cons to the all-in-one website options. For those of you who have WordPress websites, and that's what we use here in my organization for our client websites, are all built inside WordPress. I do have a Zenfolio website, which I will talk to you about for my photography business, but everything else I do is done in WordPress. Well, with the exception, I do now have a Shopify store, so I'll talk about that as well. But WordPress is my my website software of choice, and it's very popular right now. It's what everybody's developing the really cool plugins for. It's what's the most recognized and easy to move between designers. So you can get an e-commerce plugin if you already have a WordPress website that you can just add on to it, and it's really handy because it sort of keeps everything in the branding, and it's all in one place, and you can update your website and your shopping cart all at the same time. Then we have our dedicated shopping cart based websites. These websites are Shopify and BigCommerce, and they are shopping carts that have a little bit of website thrown in with them. They're primarily, though, designed to sell products, and you can use them in one of two ways. You can use them as just your sole online presence, so everything is based around the e-commerce idea, or you can hook them onto your existing website and send people there to do their shopping. Then we have dedicated photography sites. These are like Zenfolio and SmugMug that are designed specifically for photographers, and they do a few things that other e-commerce solutions don't do that photographers particularly need, like sell digital downloads. That's the reason I use Zenfolio, is because my photography is primarily commercial, and it's primarily delivered to clients with a release, and it drives me crazy when people want it drives me crazy when people want downloads and then they lose their downloads. So I have to go in and pull the files, and yes, I realize I can charge people for that, but it's not that. It's the hours in my day and the fact that it gets to be kind of a customer service nightmare. So I have a website that takes care of that for me. All I have to say is, hey, you lost your digital download? No problem. Here's your gallery address, go download it again. And then they can take care of it themselves. So it makes my life a whole lot easier. Then we have kind of a step removed. So websites 1 through 5, or presences 1 through 5 here, are sites that are dedicated to your business and your business alone. Options 6 and 7 are where you sign in with other artists and sell your wares in a mall type of a situation. That's the best way I can think of to describe it. So you have online mall shops. So these are Etsy and what else? Etsy and Amazon Handmade. There's several choices that you can choose from for the online mall shop, but Etsy is probably the one that's most prevalent. Everyone knows what it is. And then you also have pre-designed product shops. These are shops like Cafe Press, where you set up a shop and then people can put your artwork on something that they want to purchase, like a coffee cup or a phone case or something along those lines. So it's kind of a pre-designed product shop, and there are some definite pros and cons with that as well, because there's some things you need to think about before you open one of those shops. All right. So when we get into thinking about the things that you need to think about before you move into actually making a choice off the previous page, you need to ask yourself some questions. Do you have one-off artwork that you want to sell? And if you do, there are some solutions that are really difficult. For example, Shopify is amazing if you want to sell multiple prints of the same thing. But if you have one-off artwork, that means when that piece of art sells, you need to go get it off of the website. Now you can do some things with inventory and such to kind of alleviate that, but it's a little bit of extra work. Whereas places like Etsy, that's what they're designed to do, is one-off artwork. So sometimes that's a little bit simpler for you. So ask yourself that question. Do you have one-off artwork that you want to sell? Do you need this website to serve more than just physical products and prints? For photographers, you very well may. You may be serving your customers to do digital downloads and commercial releases. So do you need your website to be able to handle that in addition to being able to do products and prints? That's a huge consideration. And it's the number one reason that I have a Zenfolio site instead of something different. Do you need the capability to provide high quality images to someone? That's another one. Do you have the capability to provide high quality images? For those of you who do drawn art, do you have the lighting and everything that you need to be able to do to capture your painting realistically, to be able to display it online and to send it to like Redbubble or Cafe Press in a high enough quality format that they're able to transfer it onto the printed projects that they do? Do you have technical skills capable of doing basic HTML coding and image prep? This is another big part of this. Products like Shopify and BigCommerce really do a good job of disguising the HTML coding and you having to understand the technical aspects of image preparation and so on and so forth. WooCommerce, which is a WordPress plugin, does not. You have to know a little bit of basic HTML and the concept of how shopping carts work. Otherwise, you are get very frustrated very quickly with WooCommerce. Either you need somebody to train you how to use it and to help you get a really good understanding of how your specific shopping cart is going to work in it, or you need to go with a little bit more non-technical requirement for the software that you choose. What type of audience do you want to attract and how do you want to position your brand? So I was at we do a monthly meetup in Kansas City for artists and photographers and musicians, basically anybody who does anything creative. So it's a creative meetup, and we have a lot of visual artists in the group because that tends to be what the area that we are in kind of caters to. And we had a big discussion this last time about selling stuff online, and we talked about Etsy in particular, and several of the people mentioned that Etsy has become the eBay of art. So, how do you want to position your brand? There's a different feel between going to an Etsy shop and going to a Fine Art America shop. And there's a difference in expectation of cost and service and product. So you have to think of yourself, how do you want to position your brand? Do you want to be lumped in with a whole bunch of other businesses, or do you want to have something that is a cut above that? Are you happy just having your images or your artwork on Cafe Press products, or do you want to do something that's more customized, more special? And there's nothing wrong with either direction. It just is a personal preference that you need to think about and how you want to position your business, because where people go to buy it has an impact on what you can charge as well as associated services that you might provide. And do you have a payment solution in place? If you do not, we need to majorly talk about what it is that you need to do to be able to collect money. So if you haven't gotten a payment solution in place, and I'm going to talk to you about PayPal because it is the number one thing I recommend for artists, because typically, especially ones that would be listening to this webinar who are getting started with e-commerce, it's a good solution for you to get your feet wet into selling things without costing you a great deal of money and having you go through some painful processes in order to get it set up. You also need to be ready to do a few things. You need to be ready to take, edit, and resize your images. Now, if you're a photographer, hey, you got that covered. But for artists who do visual art and paintings, this can be a huge hurdle. It can be majorly problematic. I know the artist that is in the gallery next to mine at the art house in Kansas City, she struggles with this. And so we've kind of hooked up and trying to help her be able to get that accomplished. But it's problematic for a lot of people to be able to get really nice high resolution images. And if you do artwork that is of any size, like much more than a legal size piece of paper, then it does truly become problematic in creating something that is the correct colors, the correct focus. It's something that you are going to have to be able to do, though, if you are going to get your objects printed on like Cafe Press or Redbubble products. There has to be a certain quality to that image in order for it to be able to be reproduced on something as big as a comforter. So it's a hurdle you have to think about and be ready to overcome. You also need to think about how you're going to package your finished products if you are going to be the person that ships them. And shipping is another thing that will trip you up, because shipping is something you have to know intimately. You have to know how you're going to ship things. Where you're going to ship them is very important. So if you're in the US, so the lower 48 is usually not a big issue. But when you say US, you're also including in a lot of shipping terms, you're also including being able to ship to Alaska and Hawaii, which is a totally different price range, as well as all of the outlying areas. U.S. territories often are included in that U.S. category, and that it can be hugely expensive to ship to those areas using certain carriers. So, and also the size of the item. The post office will only ship things up to a certain size. So how you're going to ship them, where you're going to ship them. Are you going to sell internationally? Are you going to sell to Canada? So if you're Canadian, are you going to sell to the US? Those things are all very important. Canadian to US and US to Canada shipping is expensive. And it's often a little bit crazy how to get things through customs. So you've got to consider all of those factors. The internet is a very international place. So, and how much are you going to charge for your shipping, and how much are you going to charge for your handling? Because remember, it's not just the cost. You have your packaging, you have your gas to whatever location it is that you're going to drop stuff off. You have the time that it takes you to get things wrapped up and packaged and addressed, and the time you have to stand in line if you're shipping things from the United States Postal Service, and then you're going to be taking some time out of your day to be able to do that as well. How are you going to be able to cope with that? So shipping is a big project that you need to think about, and you won't be able to activate your store and start selling until that particular check mark has been checked. What is going to be your refund and guarantee policy? What if somebody gets something and they don't like it? What if they get it and it's messed up in some way or another? What is going to be your refund and guarantee policy? Because most of the time, most of these locations, most of the websites are going to ask you to have that in place. How are you going to price your artwork? So what are you going to do for pricing? And then how are you going to collect the money? Here is the reality of this situation. No matter what option you choose in the list of options, you are still going to be responsible for the sales. And I want to throw that in there because it's very important for you to understand that just because you have a Cafe Press website, or a cafe press shop does not mean that you're going to be rolling in the sales. Yes, I would love to have a coffee cup with that image on it as a consumer, but finding you and knowing that that's what I want to purchase takes a lot of time and effort on my behalf, and you may be so hidden I don't find you. So just remember, you're going to be responsible. Now I want to go back for a moment to PayPal and get accepting payments, because I never can have a discussion about e-commerce. I mean, e-commerce is collecting money for something online, and the collecting money part is problematic for some people. So let's talk about PayPal. If you have a PayPal account, 2 thumbs up. If it's not a business account, you need to make it a business account if you're going to use it with these options that I've talked about. So PayPal is easy and secure, and it's established. It's very trustworthy. I've been using PayPal for a number of years now, and they are, especially with their business accounts, knock on wood, I have had 0 problems with them. And when I have had a problem with money or an account or something like that, I have been able to get a hold of a person, and they have been extremely helpful. It's also, for the most part, free. There's not a monthly fee unless you charge people reoccurringly, or unless you want to be able to do a full merchant account through PayPal. Honestly, for most of you, that's not going to be a necessity. You can establish a PayPal account. I'm going to talk a little bit about the process for that. They do have debit cards available for both the consumer accounts and the business accounts, and I really recommend it, because PayPal's fees are, at the present moment that I'm talking about this, and I just checked not too long ago, so I'm hoping this is still true, is 2.9% on the transaction. There may be a transaction fee, like a quarter or something like that. Usually merchant accounts charge a percent of the sale, and then like a one-off transaction fee. But for PayPal, I'm 99% sure it's a 2.9% flat fee. And if you have a debit card with them, you can get 1% back on a lot of purchases. Now, you're not going to get it back on bank transfers. You're not going to get it back on ATM stuff. But for a lot of the purchases that you make, you'll get 1% back. So 1.9% as a credit card fee is actually pretty good. You have to be doing a lot of business to negotiate a fee much better than that. So 1.9 is pretty handy, and as easy as PayPal is to set up, that percentage is great. I also know that's less than Square. I have had Square in the past and not been as happy with Square as I am with PayPal, but I am more established with PayPal. So you may want to talk to some artisans that use both and figure out the pros and cons for both. The other thing I like about PayPal is when somebody pays me, I have immediate money. Square does, or at the last time I looked at Square, does have a hold for a period of time before you actually get your money in your bank account. But PayPal is immediate if you have the debit card. So somebody can pay you, and then you can go straight to the grocery store and buy food for your family. PayPal is also widely accepted. It's hooked into so much of what is online. So typically when you set up one of these e-commerce solutions, there will be an option for PayPal checkout, as well as paying through a credit card through PayPal, and it'll be just a matter of doing a few checks and entering some information about your PayPal account. So it's widely accepted amongst the online community, so that makes it easier for you to be able to utilize it. They do have a swiper available. So you can accept cards and swipe them, and I'm pretty sure if they haven't developed it already, they'll have something with a chip reader out in the not so far out future. So you can actually take payments on your cell phone or your iPad or your tablet of some variety. So it's really pretty simple. So here's how I use PayPal. I set up my PayPal account as a business account, and it is what I run most of my payments through. most people don't write checks anymore. It just is the state of affairs. And if you have clientele that is under 30, they really don't write checks. They just don't do it. Over 40, yeah, they'll send you a check, but it gives you immediate money, and you're able to charge even though people don't have a PayPal account. You can have them pay with a credit card. So I even do my reoccurring billing with PayPal, and I invoice through PayPal. So you can take care of your services invoicing through PayPal as well. The only difficulty that I have with PayPal is that when I send an invoice or do some type of an online payment that requires PayPal, there are a certain population that doesn't understand they don't need a PayPal account, because PayPal kind of pushes them towards that direction, which is their right. They're doing things. They're doing a lot for us as businesses, and so I think they should have the ability to see if they can get people to open an account. But sometimes they make that so prominent, people don't understand they can pay with just a credit card. PayPal is what I recommend for most artists if you do not have a payment solution in place. It is not an immediate solution. So you are not going to be able to go order Shopify this morning and have your shop up and running and be able to accept PayPal by tonight. It takes a few days to get everything set up, and it takes a few more days to get everything set up with your bank account so you can move money around, and then also to get your debit card. So do this step of things, if you haven't done it already, a few weeks before you want to launch your e-commerce solution. All right, let's break down those options for you. And I'm sorry, this is probably one of the most graphic-free presentations I have done in a really long time. It's not exactly the most exciting topic, but it is a very, very important one. So, all-in-one websites. These are websites like Wix, GoDaddy, Weebly, Squarespace. Now, GoDaddy also offers hosting services for WordPress and other types of website. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about like their GoDaddy website tonight concepts. And all of these have some type of an e-commerce solution, and I'm going to call it plugin, which is a WordPress term. Some type of a WordPress plugin thing that they can utilize for you to be able to sell stuff online. I personally have not set up e-commerce solutions in any of these products. I know that they are available. I have consulting clients who use a couple of them: Wix, Weebly, GoDaddy, and well, all four of them as a matter of fact. They all seem relatively happy. I think there is the plugins are somewhat limited, so you're going to have to be very careful about what it is that you choose if you're wanting to sell online through one of these particular options. The pros of using one of these all-in-one kind of complete solution website options is that it's usually designed for non-technical people. It's usually designed for folks that don't really do much with computers or with HTML or with websites or coding. So it's very, very straightforward. But that's also the hugest drawback to it. It's very restricting. And I know folks think, oh, well, I'm going to do this because it sounds like it's going to be really easy. And these companies do a very good job of telling you that it's going to be easy. The problem is it still requires a lot of work from you. Taking away the technology barrier, it only brings up a whole bunch of other barriers. You still have to write content. You still have to get the images to put on there. You still have to decide all of the things about shipping and payments, and you still have to write a refund policy. You still have to do all of that work, but now you're restricted to the way that the designers for these particular websites want you to do it. So again, what seems really simple may not actually be as simple as it looks up on the front. If you are not tech savvy and you don't want to have a shop with a whole lot of products in it, one of these particular solutions would probably fit for you better than a lot of other solutions. So you might want to take a look at that. If you're going to have a lot of product available, though, if you're going to have a lot of things in your shop or in your store, this is probably not the solution for you. Okay, just upfront and honest about that. WordPress is another solution. And so if you already have a WordPress website that you're utilizing, then you can add a plugin. For an example for this is WooCommerce, and this is one that I've used, and I plug it into my clients' websites all the time. It is a fully functional e-commerce solution, and it works really well, and it's also free. You have to pay for plugins for WooCommerce. For example, the shipping plugin. If you want UPS, if you want WooCommerce to figure the UPS shipping charge, or Postal Service or FedEx, whatever carrier you want to use, if you want them to figure what that's going to cost based on the size and the weight of the products that people put in their shopping bag and the size of your boxes, then you have to pay money for that. And there are some other things you have to pay for with WooCommerce. But it can be a fully functional solution free. I have several clients who have added it to their websites, or we've added it and they now maintain it, shops with WooCommerce directly to it. It's actually a fairly good solution for small types of shopping carts. I don't like to use it for anything that's got maybe over 100 products. If you're going to have over 100 products, I think some of the dedicated ones are a little bit better and easier to use, and they're also they're just a little bit easier to maintain. And I do shopping carts for other people besides artists, so we do have a lot of the ones that are several hundred products, and those can be really complicated in WooCommerce. But it is a really good option if you do have a WordPress website. So the pros are it can be placed into that existing site with ease, and it's pretty simple to use. The con is that it can be complicated to set up. If you are not familiar with e-commerce software and how it works, you will have a little difficulty with WooCommerce. It takes a lot of thought process in order to get it massaged into doing what it is that you want it to do, because it comes out of the box with basically no options turned on. You are also really on your own with very little help with WooCommerce. There's a forum that you can ask questions on, but it is not something that you're going to be able to get a whole lot of help with. There are also these dedicated shopping cart based websites. So in this case, we're talking about Shopify, BigCommerce, Volution, those sites that are basically shopping carts, and then you have a little bit of website up in the front to talk about your company. On the upside, these are usually really easy to set up and maintain, and they're a great solution. On the downside, you are stuck within their template structure most of the time, unless you're going to pay somebody to do custom coding. And the branding may be a little different from your main site unless you shell over some major money for, they call it skinning, which is kind of creepy. But unless you're going to shell over money for that, it can look a little different. I personally like Shopify. I have used Volution. I have not used BigCommerce, so I'm not going to, I have nothing good or bad to say about BigCommerce because I haven't used it. Volution, I think, is a little harder to use than Shopify. I've had really good experiences with Shopify. I've had great experiences with their customer service. I've had great experience setting up stores. We have a Shopify store for my photography business that sells prints that people can hang in their barn. And I did the entire store myself. It was easy to deal with, easy to use. I enjoyed the entire experience. I did come into it with a little bit of knowledge because I have a couple of clients. We have one other Shopify store for another client that we fully maintain, and another one that we consult on. So Shopify is something that I've used quite a bit. And I've been fairly impressed with it. And it's like I said, it's pretty simple. But do remember, when you use one of these shopping cart based sites, if all you're wanting is e-commerce, this is a perfect solution for you. These are fee based, by the way. You'll pay a monthly fee. And I don't think there are transaction fees with this. I'm pretty sure that all of them you just pay the monthly fee to. Again, I'm not sure on BigCommerce or Volusion, but Shopify, you pay a monthly fee, and then there's no other transaction fee. It's a subscription fee that you have to keep your website up. Now, you may already own a domain name, and you can point that domain name at one of these solutions. So for your clients that are coming into it, or for the people that are coming into it to shop, it looks like any other e-commerce website. They don't really realize, unless they're in the industry somehow, that they're on a Shopify site. They just simply think they're on your website or on a Volusion site. So it hides the fact that it's an e-commerce solution pretty well. Back to the ones that we've already talked about, WooCommerce, of course, is going to do that because it's going to be integrated into your specific website. And the all-in-one sites also do a really good job of hiding that. Sometimes down at the bottom it'll say website by Wix or GoDaddy Tonight or something. But typically your shopper isn't going to realize the difference. So these are all great. Shopify, I think, is $29 a month. It's not a huge investment, and it's pretty powerful software. I've been very impressed with the Shopify shopping cart, and it like I said, and it's pretty simple to figure out too. They've done a really good job in making it easy to use. All right, if you're a photographer, you may want to have a site that is dedicated to photography, especially if, in addition to the art that you're selling, you sell prints and photo shoots, and you want to maintain galleries for your clients and proofs and that kind of thing. So photographers have some little hurdles with their work that maybe other visual artists don't. And types of sites like this are Zenfolio and SmugMug. I use Zenfolio, and I'm very, very pleased with it for my photography business, mostly because it stops the headaches that I talked about earlier. So they're perfect for photographers. They do offer options just beyond prints. In other words, you can get phone cases and canvases, and I think I even have a cutting board available. Don't sell any of them, but I have them available, and as well as digital downloads. The cons are that these sites can be expensive, and they usually will work with specific printers, so you have to have a relationship with the printer that they work with, unless you buy a more advanced subscription. And then once you have a lot of images on there, it's hard to move. I feel like I'm very locked into Zenfolio. It would take me I don't know, countless hours of uploading to be able to reestablish everything that I've got established with Zenfolio, and I'm pretty happy with them. So as long as they don't go away, I'm good. I think Zenfolio subscription is like $300 a year. I pay for the highest one because my clients, and honestly, I don't sell hardly any prints, but my clients want the digital downloads. And again, I don't want to have to go hunting for their pictures. So I just put everything out there, and then they can go get it. And unless they need an image that they want to blow up billboard size, it's all there for them. And all we have to do when they call and say, I lost my pictures, or I lost whatever, or I need another copy of this, all I have to do is send them an address for their gallery and then approve their order. And it's all done, and it comes with the release automatically with it. I have a lot of photographer friends who use SmugMug and love it. So I'm gonna say it's probably a pretty good solution as well. All right, so now we're into everything that we've had previous to this. I don't know about SmugMug. But Zenfolio, I am able to have my actual own domain name. I'm pretty sure SmugMug will let you do that as well. Everything up to this point has been something that would be your specific presence. In other words, you're going to be able to, it looks to your consumer like it's your website. The ones that we're going to talk about from here forward are not that way. There are websites and e-commerce solutions where you're buying in with a bunch of other people, and then the store attracts people to come in, but kind of like a mall or an antique mall that has booths, you have a shop inside of this that's kind of inside of this container. Examples of this are Etsy, Fine Art America, and Amazon Handmade. The pros to this is that a lot of these cater really well to one-off items. They offer some promotion beyond what you're capable of doing. But again, the reality is that you're going to be responsible for your own promotion, remember? So they don't do a lot. And a lot of times they don't do, most of my customers, I don't think I've ever met one person who feels that Etsy sells a lot of their work. I do know a lot of photographers who are using Fine Art America and seem to like it really well. But again, the cons are that you're lumped in with a bunch of other options for the shopper, and this site is really geared towards that selection. And sometimes the shops are really hard to find. I had a client who came to me just for an hour consulting gig, and he had an Etsy store, and he told me he had an Etsy store, and I tried to find it without looking any further than just trying to look on Etsy and find his name, and I couldn't find it. And he had a very uniquely spelled name, and finally he had to send me the address for me to get there. So Etsy can be a little bit difficult. And again, you have to think of the branding component of this. Is the brand that you want to bring to the world, are you okay with the customers that come to these respective places? Like I said, we're in that group, and the consensus was that Etsy has become the eBay of art. And do you really want to be on the eBay of art? eBay would probably be another option in here. I used to sell videos on eBay all the time. Then you also have your pre-designed product shops. And again, this is somewhere where you're more or less in a mall, but in this case, the mall sells the products and then they put your imagery on them depending upon what your customers want. So examples of this are Zazzle, Cafe Press, and Redbubble, Cafe Press being probably the most popular of those. The pros to this is it gives you options by which to sell your images on products that you wouldn't typically have, and it's usually fairly easy to use, except for sometimes the upload requirements are a little bit of a hurdle for those who don't have access to good photography or scanning equipment. The cons of this is that the profit margin is split, and it's not always split favorably. So you're not going to get the best deal. So Cafe Press has to pay you, they have to pay the producer, and then they want to make money. So what you get as a slice of the pie is not going to be nearly as much as you get on the previous examples, with the exception of maybe Amazon Handmade. Amazon likes to make money. I don't blame them. I like to make money too. But they also have a lot of power to bring a lot of people in to your shop. Cafe Press, I don't know. It kind of depends. You can also hook these particular items into a main website if you want. So you can have like a store on Etsy or a store on Cafe Press, and then you can hook that into your main website. And that's probably the best way to maintain your brand and still be able to sell through these options where it's more mall-like. The thing you want to avoid is the fact that consumers have a lot of choices when they come to these. So be careful with how you think about that, because you may be doing a lot of representation for your business. And unless you give people a really direct path to your specific shop, then they may buy something from someone else and your sale may go in the pockets of some other artist with Cafe Press and whoever produces the product. So pre-designed product shops are another option that you can utilize. So I've told you a lot of information in this webinar. You have learned about a whole bunch of different options for how to structure your e-commerce business and how to think about it as an artist and get ready to sell online. I know it sounds overwhelming, but if you have to think about which one of those options is going to be the best for you, and grab that option and move forward with it. Thank you so much for attending. Have a great day.